Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. This is the event Becoming Billionaire, the secret to Apple and Amazon's explosive growth. My name is Ibrahim Al Hafiz. I am the founder of Mayo Academy, and my hopes initiative through this academy is to advance our education and, in general, allow African immigrants, in particular, to make better contributions to society. So, just as an overview of what the event will entail, I have 7 points. Hopefully, through each one, I'll try to open for questions. So the best way to learn really is to ask questions. So after each of these sections, I'll open to questions. So you guys can ask any confusions or any comments or anything you like. The first part would be about history of billionaires. So we when we see about billionaires, we see them in their end of life, really, when they have all the money. But what was their background really? How did they come out to be what they were? I think that's something that we need to understand, especially if that's what we're aspiring for. The next one would be money in the modern world. So this is basically, how do you calculate net worth, or what do you say? Like how do you understand when you say like someone is a billionaire? What does it mean? Right? What does it mean that through the COVID pandemic, an individual got $10 billion more? What does that mean? Um, so this one is more the business sense. Then after that, I'll be talking about the process of which they grow. So the first two you're knowing about their background and how we calculate it. But after that, the question is, what did they really do? And that's, I think, what we really need to understand. Um, I can't speak for everyone here, but personally, I can say for myself, that something is it's very convoluted. That we think we understand it. We think we know how they became rich, but when you look at it, really, it's through effort and struggle, and is nothing easy, right? But how do they do it? So that's the section I'll try to explain that. And then we'll go to opportunities available for you, and particularly I'll be focusing in terms of us being African immigrants, um, so our parents having immigrated here, for those in the West, that is. uh, so that's hopefully going to be like an inspiration for us, basically, moving forward. And then we'll go to importance of technology, and importance of technology meaning, what was technology like 50 years ago? What was it like, from 100 years ago, and then 50 years ago, and then what's technology now? How can we, what do we attribute it to, and how did it really grow? How did it change through this time? I think it's really, really important, specifically which leads to the next section, which is, what's in for the future. Well, to understand the future, first have to understand really the past, in a sense. How did technology come out to be as it is? And then the next question would be, what do we expect? 20 years from now, 30 years from now, what's our expectation? And inshallah, I'll go into that. And finally, is what you as an individual, either you're your school kid, university, or just got a job, or perhaps your parents. And so the question is, in through each of these segments, what could you do? And hopefully, I'll try my best to give advices. Oh, sorry. Do you hear me better right now? Oh, my bad. I just see it's okay. One second. One second. Can you guys hear me better right now? Is this clear? Yeah, I don't know why it's. What's a second. This is good right now. If I speak like this. Okay. Okay. Uh, um, Actually, just give me a moment. I think I can change the setup in, inshallah, 30 seconds. So just give me a moment. Is this clear now?
It's clear.
Okay, good. Inshallah. Okay, so where did I stop? Okay, so yeah, the last point was what we could do depending on the different uh, category for parents or youth. What can we do? This will just be my advices, but really, again, I'm not that experienced. Like I can't really speak for each other category. I was a university student, like an undergraduate student, so I can speak for that. But beyond that, it'll just be my advice in a sense, and really, it's up to you to take from there and try to do the work the best from it. So, all right, so beginning with the history of Billionaire. So I've selected four companies, so four individuals that we're really all of us, I would assume, familiar with. And there are many more than this, but I just wanted to begin with these ones because these are like I think everyone knows. There's really no question on these ones, right? Especially the companies and the contributions they've done. So let me begin with the first one, Amazon. Founder Jeff Bezos, who at one point was the richest person in the world. That's like richest person ever, like an individual. I think right now, just a few days ago, he's overtaken by someone else. But point is, $200 billion is an enormous amount, right? He founded Amazon in 1994. That's a few years before I was born. But what I think many of us wouldn't comprehend, right, is that his mother was a farmer. So like if it was from his mother's side, it was a farmer, and his father, they divorced when he was a few months old. So he was living single with his mother, in the farmland, like in the farm region. And he was, doing those every chores. And he did mention some advices that he got just from even farming, like this the struggle when you grow a crop, right? You have to plant, hoping to get the reward later on. And so these kind of things, he learned it from there. And then later on, when he was like 5 years old, his mother, married the another Mexican immigrant. But the point here is his stepfather also was an immigrant, right? And through that, he learned business from his father. His father initially was an immigrant, like not that rich, not wealthy at all, right? He managed to get a living, meaning he was kind of successful, what we would call successful, right? What us coming into the country, how we would say successful. He was like that, but nothing really exotic, right? Nothing really, insane. And so he actually was working with like a financial company, making a decent amount of money on that. And it was around like 1994. He's like, there's an internet coming and there's a huge potential. So he decided to leave that, to leave his job. He just, quit his job, went to this, and started, going through the process, starting a business. Asking for investors to put money in and trying to sell it. And you can see right now really what it turned into. Amazon just, controlling all not only the e-commerce, but every other aspects as well. But if that wasn't enough, I mean, look at Apple or Steve Jobs. He passed away, I think, 2015, I believe, something like that. He had $10 billion worth when he passed away. If he were to be living till now, it would be $45 billion, right? So it's still a huge amount. And so he founded it in 1976. This is probably pretty older because it's not really an internet company; it's more like a computer consumer company. But when you think about it, his father was a Syrian immigrant. His father was born in Syria and immigrated. And not only that, from a young age, also the parents left him and he was adopted, right? And it was not like his adopted family was was rich in any way, right? I mean, it was just a normal adopted, a normal family, adopting a child. And even so, it shows you that even if you're not living, he wasn't even living with his parents, and yet he was able to have this ambition and this determination to go forth, right? And we know what really turned out. Like in 2006, he was one of the advocates for the smartphone. Not 2008. Basically, the iPhone. And I know many will say, he didn't invent the iPhone, like he didn't invent the smartphone. And you can say also the same thing. Jeff Bezos didn't invent, online shopping. But what they both did do was really become the leaders, the frontiers of these things, the ones who really advocate for it and pushed it and made it, in a sense, easy for consumers to get on board it. Because at that time, it was just really, um, very new, right? No one really knows the potential of it. We can go on now with Tesla, Elon Musk right now, $153 billion. Tesla was founded in 2003. He was a South African immigrant. For like he was born in South Africa, studied in South Africa, and then I think 1990 when the the civil restructuring in South Africa happened, right? When the apartheid was working, he decided his family decided to leave and go to Canada. Yes, he wasn't. I mean, he was rich in terms of South African standards. Yeah, I mean, there are many even Hadaris who are rich in terms of Ethiopian standards. But yet he still went here and really had that vision and he kept it pushing forward. And this is slightly different in terms of Elon Tesla, right? Because Elon actually didn't found Tesla. Tesla was founded by others. What he did was before that, in 1994, around the time of Jeff Bezos, what's bizarre is that he actually had a PhD position. He was going to go do a PhD at Stanford University, and he got accepted, but like they said the day of the enrollment that he's supposed to attend, he said basically there's a huge potential in terms of internet. So he literally canceled his PhD, went started the internet. He started a company. It failed him. Like he had to cancel within 2 years. But then guess what? He founded after that. He founded PayPal. PayPal, what we use right now to commute to send money around. He founded PayPal, and when he sold that, that's where he got his money. He got like in 2001 he sold to eBay, I think, and he got $100 million just from that selling. Um, and then he didn't stop there. Then he went and put all a good portion of the money into Tesla, and then he grew Tesla from there. Um, the last one really is bizarre. It's very bizarre because this is Zoom, and we're using it right now to communicate, right? Uh, and it was founded by Eric Wan. Right now, worth $16 billion because of the COVID pandemic. He founded in 2011. That's less than 10 years ago. He was a Chinese immigrant. He was born in China. His father was a I think a geologist, a geology engineer, I think. But the point is, wasn't really that special, right? A decent family, yes, um, decent lifestyle. But he decided to when he heard about again the technology boom happening in California, in San Francisco specifically, where all the tech startups right now, where Google and all the Apple and all these things are. He decided to move there. He moved there. Uh, he moved there and um, he joined Cisco. I'm not familiar with Cisco. It's mainly for comp- uh, for corporations, not really for individuals, right? So he joined it and he was part of WebEx. I don't know if any of you heard of WebEx, but WebEx was before Zoom, and he was the one who worked through it until like from 2004 until 2011. He reached the position of like project engineering manager, and he proposed to Cisco, I have a new idea, he said. And the idea was some kind of online conferencing he called it frictionless online conferencing, where you can easily communicate with each other. And the company is like, no, listen, that's doesn't seem like a good fit. We're going to stay with our idea called WebEx, which still today WebEx is here. So he literally left the company. He was a manager of that company. He said, I cannot handle it. I have my own idea. He left that and he started Zoom, the one we're on right now. He started Zoom, and I mean, right now is all history. He envisioned a time when we all communicate like this. Didn't expect it to come this quick, but as you can see through the pandemic, it is right now. And the point I'm mentioning all this is like there are a ton of others you can just look at. The point I'm mentioning is now is not the past. Before, to be rich, you really had to have like an elite family and likes, but now there's technology, and it's really reshaping, in a sense, every aspect of the way we're living. And so under that under that under that scenario, in a sense, it isn't really challenging now. Isn't really as impossible as it was to contribute and have a big impact. And I will go with that in the coming sections as to why that may be the case. Okay, so I'm done with this slide. As I mentioned, through every section, so I'll leave it open for anyone who has a question or concern. Does anyone have anything to say or any questions or um, like to make any comments even? Or any points to make? Right now, you can put a chat. Oh, all right. Yeah. After every section, just feel free if you have any questions. Just ask through because again, it's very. I think it's just self-explanatory, but the next one's maybe a little bit, confusing. So if it is, then please let me know. All right. So money in the modern world. How do we characterize what value is, or like how much someone is worth, their net worth? So typically, most individuals have a company, and what you do it is how much percent of a company they own, right? So you don't really have cash in the bank. So for example, Jeff Bezos has 100, like about $200 billion. He doesn't have $200 billion in cash, meaning he can't just give $100 billion away right now. It's not doable, right? But he does have the share of that company, so he can slowly give up that share and convert it into cash. So that's what we mean by cash. So when someone's like a billionaire, it doesn't mean that you have the money in hand. It just means you own a company that's worth that much. So it's a matter of bringing value. That's what really it is. So you would need to basically trade that money, if trade your share to your ownership to get to actually realize that money, as they say. Um, but again, as you grow your company, it means your company becomes better, and if you own that share, it means your share becomes much more prestige, much more wanted, and therefore the value of it goes higher. And with technology companies, it comes really high because you can see the impact it has just by making like a Zoom platform. It's used worldwide. Whereas if you're making like a product, you couldn't. You're limited by how much resource you have. You're limited by how much, in a sense, material you have, the shipping and all these. But when you have a platform, really, it allows you to expand and grow very quickly. And that's how you can see over here. So IPO is called, you call it initial public offering, which is basically when the company suddenly becomes public. And this is Zoom's IPO. This is Zoom's stock history, meaning when they initially launched in 2019, they said after 2019, the Zoom people said, this is good enough. Our company is good. We can start selling it to people in the public. But they didn't know what was coming up. They didn't know COVID was around the corner. And so when they sold it, they initially sold one share, $36. That's how they opened it. And you can see within 1 year, and within 2 years, like in less than 2 years, as soon as COVID hit, everyone started using Zoom, and then suddenly it was, the value of it now, because if everyone's using Zoom, it must be that valuable, and the price just skyrocketed 10 times as much as they began selling it for. And you can see now how he turned from like having $1 billion worth to $16 billion, right? And it was simply because he created a product that has value, that is able to grow and to expand. And just for reference, if you see the bottom over here, these are companies like Apple, Tesla, the company that mentioned how since their initial offering, it grew insanely. Like Amazon initially offered for $1, now it was worth $3,000. So you can see almost from nothing, it was grown, and it was really much, improved upon, turned into, like a conglomerate, like an entire mega corporation. Okay, any questions on this now? Any comments again? We're done with this section, so if anyone wants to mention anything, you can mention in the chat also. Nothing? A quiet crowd? Go
Yeah,
ahead,
can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I feel like sometimes the stock price might not give us a good picture of the company, where it's at, especially when you look at Zoom. Like you said, it's skyrocketed because of COVID, and a lot of people actually feel like the price jump is not like it doesn't justify for the service and the product they provide. And it's a little bit weird when you look at the stock price with gigantic companies like Coca-Cola and Toyota comparing to Tesla. When you're comparing their stock price, it's maybe half of it, but they're more stable than these companies. So it's kind of difficult to say one way or another for tech companies, because like there are so many tech companies that start out but also fail, and it's hard to make it out. So this is not really any particular question. It's
Yeah.
just discussion that I like, comment that I would like to throw out.
Yeah, I understood it. So first of all, in terms of stock pricing, when you say, let's say, $300 per share, companies don't have the same amount of share, right? So if a company has, 10 shares versus 100 shares, if they were equal in value, then 10 share, if you have 10 shares, one of them will be, let's say, $10, right? That will be $100. Whereas if you have 100 shares, one share would be $1, right? So one of the issues here is when you're comparing different companies' stock pricing themselves, is that they may not have the same amount of stock, amount of shares, right? So 1%, one stock does not mean 1%, right? So that is one aspect. But you're right in the sense, in the general sense that you mentioned a point where, let's say companies like Coca-Cola are stable, whereas tech companies are more, more chaotic, right? In some sense, that is true, but in another sense, stock price
What
are,
about you, Soda? Yeah, what about you? I don't like soda.
in another sense, stock prices are the value of the value of the company for a future reference. So you don't want to buy a company that doesn't grow, right? If you have, let's say, if a company doesn't grow at all, then there's no reason to buy a stock in it, because it means, yes, you're converting your money into ownership, but the ownership really doesn't improve because the company didn't grow. Whereas for, the tech companies like, say, Zoom, there's a possibility that you put the money in now, and then they will be growing. So you want to invest in things that are growing and not growing. That said, technology companies are risky, and they are because two aspects. First is competition. It's very easy to make, like, right now there's so many different video conferencing systems coming up right now in COVID. Why is it the case? Because it's very easy to do, which is also one of the points I'm trying to say, is that there shouldn't be a barrier for us to try and attempt these kind of things. Whereas Coca-Cola, to have that kind of impact, Coca-Cola, like the amount of advertising and marketing, and not only that, the process and the logistics that they have in it, it's so hard to compete, and therefore there's not much competitors going to be able to do that. Whereas in technologies, is way easier to come up with something like this, right? So that's another reason why you would say it's chaotic, because a competitor might come and then suddenly people realize what's the point of it. And the most of all, like social media platforms, think about it, like, because those are more of like, hype, like Instagram, Snapchat or WhatsApp. All these are, they depend on people using them, or people putting value in them, not the thing itself, because there's so many messaging apps around. It's just what people can put value in it. So it's, as I said, like a blessing and a curse in that sense. Like, it's good in a sense that is very easy for people to go in, which is the point I'm trying to say. If we should try for anything, it should be at least a technology company that we should envision we contribute in, because it's very easy to get in. But at the same time, yes, there's a lot of competition, and it's very hard. You might have something and suddenly collapse in a flash, because one key aspect of your idea suddenly got taken by someone else. Someone else done it, or you know, usually it's competitor going around. But yeah, that's a good point over there. I think there's no one else has anything to say, so let's move on. Okay, so steps to growing a business. So as I mentioned, there's a huge potential here in companies and growing them. Um, how do they grow? The first thing I want to emphasize, the difference between a startup and a business. A business is general. Anything that you do to solve customer needs and get profit from it. That's more of the general, the classical. A startup is an idea you're putting forth to either to radically change the way something is done, or to solve a problem that hasn't been solved before, right? So that's what startup. For example, let's say if you talk about Amazon, that was radical. People sell on the in this in the people sell, in stores or shops, but they're like, what if it's online? Or in Tesla, people drive engine, these cars using gas. What about if it's electric? Or in terms of Apple, people have, computers. At that time, it was like PCs. But what if it was, all in one bundle? Because before you had to buy components, I believe. And Apple's like, what do we have one easy to use? So they're radically thinking the way something is, and that's what it calls a startup. And those are what allow you to grow. At the same time, they're much more harder, right? Like the example I like to give is, if you want to open a lemonade stand, or whatever kind of stand you want, As long as you know people are interested, you can put it up there and get some money in, right? But the question, will that really grow and expand later on? Well, not really, because is there some aspect of it that can reach out more people as time goes? So that's the difference between a startup and a business. A startup here, there are many ways to help you start. So actually, as you can see, there are stages to startup. I'll just go through the image over here. You can see the first one is just an idea. You come up with an idea. There's a problem that there's some changes to be made. And then you have let me give an example over here, analogy. So let's say we're thinking about internet connectivity in Harari, right? In Ethiopia, let's say. There's a problem. So the first question is, what is the problem? Is the problem that it's too expensive, or is it that it's very poor quality, or like very slow, or is it that there's not enough, systems or computers, or what is the issue? That's where you have this. That's where the first stage comes in, right? That's the after the inspiration is a pre-seed. So right before you plant, you have to understand what's happening, and then after that you move on to the next one, which is the seed state when you're actually planting it, right? Like it's like think about like analogy like a seed you're planting it. So in case of the example I gave, you're beginning to propose solutions. What are the solutions to internet connectivity in Harvard? Do they need more wireless, antennas, networks? Do they need more ground wires? What is it? And that would be the seed state. And then after that, you pass the seed state, you have a prototype, you have an idea, design, a concept that is already shown to work, and you work it, and you propose it. And basically, the amount of money you get by the time you pass the seed would be maybe like you go ask for $500,000, and it's common to get $500,000 in that end. Um, in the next slide, I'll go through some available options, which are a lot. But I just want to show you that there's steps. And on the right side is basically give an example. There was between 2008 and 2010, there was about 1,000 tech companies, right? And as it goes through each round they go, so each round meaning they make an improvement, they grow bigger, they ask for more money, investments. They use the money to build bigger, and then they go for another investment. And they keep on going until they're able to self-sustain. And you can see over here, it is a really tough, feat, like a tough challenge to reach, right? There's so much competitors because it's so easy to go in to the point there's so much competitors, and it's really hard to get out really to make it in debt or like get out in profit, right? But you can see over here, this is like an example of initially 50% just die off, couldn't make it the first round, and then it keeps on going down. But the point is, in the end, after that, in the last end, about 1% reached unicorn status. Unicorn status meaning the company was worth over $1 billion. So of the 1,000 companies, about 12 of them from that within that year in America managed to get $1 billion worth in it. And the thing is, even if you don't reach that stage, many of them, exit, meaning they will sell at least some portion of it. So you still make money, but in terms of the $1 billion that we see, right, is typically through perseverance. And in many cases, people do it again. So they fail and they fail again, and the third time they do it, they manage to master it and they get it. But yeah, so this is just a very rough idea, and the steps and stages they go to rise in business, to grow in business, particularly startup. I'm focusing on tech startups. Any questions, comments here before I move on?
I do.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there any preferred way of handling competitors when you get to that stage, or buyouts? Obviously, you would like to push your company, get to sixth rounds or unicorn, but not every company is going to get there. But what do you do to stay in the business? Because there are very ruthless competitors out there. And it's sometimes I feel like it's hard for us to be in this kind of business environment because these business people have, if it's not illegal, they will do it. So there's very minimal ethics involved in here. And as a Muslim, it gets tricky to handle that. Um, do you have any suggestion, like discussion
Yeah, I know what
point
you're saying.
again?
I know what you're saying. Yeah. The good points over there. The first thing I say, um, first of all, when you have an idea of having a startup, at least personally, the mindset you should come in is not what money I end up having or what value it's worth. It's what change you want happening, right? So, for example, in the Zoom scenario, if I were to make Zoom, it's not how do I make money from it. It's more of like how do people communicate better? How can I enable the communication? When you have that kind of mindset and mentality, first of all, there's really no losing in that, right? Because if a competitor were to outdo you in a sense, then they must have been solving the same problem you were trying to solve. In which case, the problem was solved. And secondly, through your process on doing this, through your process on trying to solve this, you acquire knowledge and experience that allows you to then divert to some other problem we have, which is very, very common for founders of those people start company, is that they don't just do one thing. They always have different things. Elon Musk, we know Tesla. He invested in Tesla, and at the same time, he started SpaceX, which is a space company. And what was the reason? He said, I have a vision for clean energy, but at the same time, an vision for space. So you don't have one mindset, right? You're trying to solve a problem. And so typically when competitors come in, it's not like a bad thing, right? You do hope for you to capitalize on it yourself. But in the end, it becomes a learning lesson. And you say, okay, now there's something else. Now I've learned how to tackle this and how competitors got me to it. So now I will divert to this, right? And that's really the end goal of all this. It should be how you use imagination and how to use you know your experience to make a change. And that's what everyone tells you. I know you mentioned many people don't have ethics, especially in the business sense. But when it comes to founders, they tell you if you don't have belief or you don't have that determination, there's no way you can survive. It's brutal initially the first time. Like the first stages are very hard, right? And you do it for a reason and a purpose, right? And that's what I believe. Yes, we also have ethics, which means later on we can't, we're not supposed to, as I said, not supposed to like, you know, just remove other businesses for the purpose of them, just because you can, ruin them, right? These kind of things. But at the same time, the way I see it is that us being Muslims, our goal isn't money. Our goal is to to do good and to help others, right? Contribute. So in that case, I see that really for us is actually we're even in a better situation when we think about it. As long as, again, as I said, if your end goal is money, then I mean it's a risk. If end goal is money, it's a risk. But if your end goal is a change and experience, then it's a win-win because you're gonna learn along. And this is what everyone tells you. If you really want to start, there's a lot of determination, a lot of effort you have to put in. And you were right that it doesn't pay off. Many times it doesn't pay off in terms of the money aspect. But again, nothing can defeat experience, and that's what I say. Really, it doesn't hurt to try once or twice, even if you're never going to make it. Even if you don't have an idea, an vision to become like a manager or any aspect of that. Just the fact of just trying, you gain experience from that, right? Any other questions or more? Our discussion points. Okay. So what are opportunities available for us? Interestingly, there is a lot actually, and those are which is very very new to me. There's actually a lot of like a huge amount of opportunities if you have an idea for them to invest in you. They would give you money. They take a percent of your company, and then they give you the resource and they give you the mentoring and all these everything you're required to help you succeed. And one thing one thing that at least when I see from parents and in the generation of parents, I don't know, like not necessarily heritaries, but also the immigrant parents, is that they this doesn't come across their mind, right? And I had a hypothesis. I probably it is because of the racism that was built upon in America, right, and Europe and through the colonial era. Because while let's say Asia and India and Africa were all colonized, the difference here is that in terms of Africans, there was a different perspective on them. So you see right now, Indians really making a huge contribution, like in terms of let's say Google's CEO is Indian, Microsoft CEO is Indian, and we see a lot of Indians really taking up this position, founding companies and the likes. We see Chinese also. I showed you Zoom, right? And there are other examples where they really, well, Chinese are also growing it here, but we don't see Africa, we don't see blacks, and that's potentially because that bias that was in it from before, where if you ask, let's say if you wanted a loan, it'll be harder for you to get a loan because you're black, right? So that's presumably why us as African immigrants would, especially the parents, would think that or would believe that this is very hard to get into, because right now when we look at it, we don't see black people at the top positions, right, in terms of techs and all these, right? We don't see that. We don't see them there. But from what I've noticed and what I've looked through, it's changing right now, especially with trying to increase diversity. And the reason they want diversity now is because this is a global issue, right? You have a company that's global now. There's no locality, right? And it's not just that the African market in itself, like in Africa, is growing very high. Yeah, the stereotypes adding up. But if before, like, and it's not just because of Africa, but even here, they want the diversity because they want different perspectives, and by having different perspectives, there's probably something that others of different racial backgrounds may miss. So they really want people of diverse backgrounds to start it. So every time when you're founding a company, they ask, look at the team, who is it? And now it's not only just like being black, right? It's also that so now the same thing, woman. If you're a woman, if you're a woman found a company, even if there's just one woman in the founder list, they say, okay, this is actually a diverse company going through. It's because they believe that the more different perspective you have, the better you can envision, the more accurate the perception would be, and therefore the more likely of successes. And I mentioned right now there's so much people trying to start a company, so at this point, really, you want to find a team that really can take it, and so that's why it's valued right now. So so yeah, that stereotype of you're black, it's harder. It may some may remain now, but there's still an active initiative to actually to overcome this. Yeah. So any discussion points now? Anyone would like to chip in?
Yeah, I actually have a question. So I've been for a couple of years now, I've just been wondering, where exactly do we find the right partner slash people to start it off with? Because I know a lot of these opportunities like Y Combinator, they expect you to at least have a partner with you. So where exactly do we find those right match?
Yeah, that is actually a very difficult question. Because so there are two ways to approach this company aspect, two different ways. Number one, you come with an idea. You all share one idea. So there's an idea put out, and people will come together and say, this is the idea we all want to help ourselves and progress in. That is typically, I think, it's more common going through. But there's also the other aspect where we are a team. We have diverse skills and we have diverse, perspective, diverse backgrounds, and therefore let's come up with an idea to collaborate together. This last method, which is you begin with a team and then come with an idea, it's really hard, at least personally from my perspective. And the reason is there has to be a lot of faith in it, and there has to be a lot of sacrifice. And unfortunately, what I've seen, especially in Hararis or African immigrants and the likes of those, not even African, like immigrants in general, is the perception that they've been given from the young age is more of the classical route of get a degree, get a job, or become a doctor, the likes of those. So when you try to come up with this idea, let us come together and then try something. It's as if they'll say, I already have, there's already a vision I already have laid out. I already want to become a doctor. I already want to do this. So then they would say, I'm not willing to sacrifice, take the risk on this aspect. So that's very, very hard. What you could do is you can, now there's social media, so you can, put on social media, for partners. But that's really, you want a partner really that very well, because in the end, it's all about the experience. As I mentioned, you will most certainly, like, the amount succeeding on a first try is very, very rare. Like, for you to succeed in the first try, you must have backing. You must have family who are, not necessarily, not just rich, but like who have connections. You need to have people who are, uh, people who understand it, who went through the experience, people who are managers, like. So, and that's really hard to get at the first try. And so because of that, many people, rightfully so, do not want to go this route. The way I look at it, and the way I would hope people look at it, is that this should be like a learning experience. When you would come up with an idea, two aspects, I'd say. So one is a learning experience, because in the end, it will pay off when you learning these skills, these analytical problem solving, intuition, all these. When you get your job later on, it'll help you, right? But number two, which I think is more important, is if you envision change and you want an effect to happen, so you get satisfied by making change or making progress, then that should be enough, really, to come together and see how can I contribute. So that second idea of finding people first before you begin the idea, that's why it's really hard for us, as immigrants and like. I mean, that's my opinion anyway. In terms of the other one, is if you have an idea, then you have an idea, you put out an idea, and then you would say, here's my idea. You get co-founders. So many times there's a one person who comes with the idea, and then you have three other founders, and the initial founder finds other people who are good in it. So one person has an idea, let's say, has an envision something. Let's say, as I mentioned, the example I gave, internet connectivity in Harari. You have an idea of this device that connects to networks, let's say, and gets fast Wi-Fi, fast internet. And so that's your idea. So when you want your co-founder, you're going to first find people who have experience, let's say, in electronics, or experience in management, or experience in whatever aspects that you need to help you progress that. But of course, you have to give out a good, like, a percentage of the company you share with them, right? But also at the same time, you don't have to have a partner to go like Y Combinator or Techstars or like these incubators, right? Or these accelerators. If you have a strong idea, you don't. And the thing is, they will, if you have a good idea, they will try to find ones for you, right? They already have their own mentors, and they'll gladly merge you with others, because in the end, they want to succeed themselves. They want your idea to grow and succeed. So yeah, that's I hope that answered the question over there. There's another raised hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment
Yeah.
with regards to a project that I was a part of. So what I was going to say is there's lots of startup grants that a lot of us don't know about, and that you actually learn about when you're in undergrad. So one of the many grants that I learned about was like the SERB grant, right? So these are like startup grants that you're given once you have like an idea, and then you're able to get these grants so that you can either like explore an idea, right? So if it's you need more research or whatever it may be, you can just explore that idea. And one example of that was this one company that I worked for as a research assistant. They had an idea to have like a play literacy kit for children, right? So basically they applied for a seed grant through I think it was NSERC, I'm not sure, but they applied for a seed grant, and that seed grant was used for me and a couple of other researchers to find out what would be the best mode for them to actually put out their product, right? So there are all these other opportunities that are available to us as well, right? So if you think about an idea, or like you said, your second point about, having an idea and going forth with that, you can look for all these different organizations that are available that are just there to just give you seed money, which is just startup money to just explore and further further research your idea and see how you can go forth. But that company, mashallah, now they're like in the US and they've totally changed their platform and they're really successful, which is, it was really nice to see them grow like that. But yeah, so I think you're right. A lot of us East Africans or Harari families, all we think about is education as being one standard way of thinking. And we just see this trajectory of, you go to, you finish your elementary education, you go to university, you become a doctor, an engineer, whatever it may be, these designated professions, right? But I think you're right. What's happening now is we're looking more for visionaries and people that are thinking out of the box, right? And some of the ways that you can get money is through these seed grants, inshallah. So I just wanted to throw that out for the other person that asked the question.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. And it actually begins from the university themselves. Like 10 years ago, it wasn't heard of. It was right now. You can now almost every university you can think of now has their own incubator. You call it incubators when you have an idea and you want to validate your idea. And they have money in these incubators starting from $1,000 up to $20,000, just for idea and validating through. So yeah, the money is out there, and it's mainly so because as I'll go in the next section, which is why is it changed? Why is it right now that there's so much startup ideas, whereas before why there wasn't? Which I'll go inshallah into that. But the point really was money is available. The government of Canada themselves wants innovation, and they want their people to come up with an idea so that the economy can grow, right. They want to contribute more to financially, right. There's a question: how does someone make sure the idea doesn't get stolen?
So question.
Sorry. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So how come? Why don't we have like the Harari community be a venture capitalist? So like, I know some of us might not have a lot of money, but like we come up with the money. So like at least when that incubator happen and that thing goes up, so at least right, we can support each other and do something like that. Is that something that maybe our parents or somebody that might have money that put together to think about?
Yeah, that's really my end goal vision, really, to have like this vision fund where everyone could you could finance innovation in a sense, and in the end you get it back, because the idea about in investing is that you invest in 100, 90 will fail, but those 10 that succeed really earn you so much. And then when you add on top of that, when you invest in your own people, your own community, yes, 90 failed in terms of starting, but 100 of them, 100% of them learned something, and 100% of them gained skill. So it's literally win-win in all cases, which really intrigued me in a sense. Like, how come there isn't a firm or an aspect, let's say, or Ethiopian in a sense, where Ethiopian can put in, but unfortunately, this is not common in Africa. It's starting to be right now, through the help of the investment firms, because they now this the West, like America and Europe, especially China too, they see this investment opportunity. So now you start building incubators, right? I think I don't know how, it was the top of my head. I remember something like in Ethiopia there was like this tech accelerator where they had a grant, and it was about using artificial intelligence. It was funded partially by China, I think, and the Ethiopian government. Um, but these things are beginning, and in this day and age now, because of the availability, there should be no really. There's no reason to not try. Um, I'll explain all this in the next slide. Why it's the case right now? Why it's different from before? So yeah, so like that. There's a question. How does someone make sure that ideas don't get stolen? There are 2 points after that. Number one, you can IP, you can like intellectual property, which you can patent it or you can hide it and hope no one finds it. Or even if you patent it, let's say people can still counterfeit it and it may be hard to track them down. But the second thing is, why do you need to patent it? And so I know many companies are not thinking about this patents and putting it through because of what investors want. But lately, when I was looking to this, people are questioning about the idea of patents because you want innovation, you want to grow. So if you have an idea and you're unable to grow your idea until someone is able to steal it from you, then that's probably an issue in the way you are growing the company or growing that idea, right? So it should more so be a lesson learned yourself to move forward. And number two, which was very mind blowing to me eventually when I figured out, is probably someone else has your idea. And there was a saying that if you thought about it, someone else thought about it. Your idea is nothing new. What is new is the amount of effort you put in and how you tackle that problem. That's what's new, right? Smartphone. Like think about phones. Smartphones were made way before Apple made a smartphone. I think there's an idea about a touchscreen phone made in like 1990 or 20. No, like there was a tablet kind of phone where you touch on it, like a tablet kind of thing. So like a smartphone touchscreen kind of thing. It was made before. And there's a smartphone. There are actually smartphones made before where you actually touch and call. But why did Apple get the iPhone? Why did that grow? It's because it's not about the thing they've done. It's not about the idea. It's the way they've done it. The way the simplicity they put in it. And I think Steve Jobs he was saying like the problem with phones is that they were complex, right? They were very complex to use, like before that is. So he said, what if we just have one button and an app on the home screen? That's it. 3 buttons away from any single thing you want to do. That's his vision. And so it's not about the thing; it's about how you actually process it, and that's what you learn. That's what you get out of it. It's not about the idea; it's about how you take that idea into concept. So that should be more of a concern. I still have to, protect your idea in that sense, but at the same time, you want to be open. You want to hear feedback from others, and the idea shouldn't stop you from telling others in a sense. So I hope that answered that question.
Just to add on something, I actually had that question initially a couple of years ago, and I spoke to one of the incubator advisor at my university. The first thing he actually said was that people are lazy. They're too lazy to take your idea. So if they actually are strong enough and active enough to take it, then let it be. But 99.9% of the time, excuse me, people won't steal your idea because they're just plain lazy. So that's the answer I got.
Exactly. Yeah. No one really wants to. No one really wants to. It's that it is hard. It is hard, and also it's not guaranteed. And so people, when they put in, when they wait it out, it's like, I can try this. Yes, there's probably 10% chance I can succeed, but I just want the money right now. So they don't think of that future in that future sense. They don't think of the potential in. But again, the way I look at it, if you really want a win-win aspect, just see the change you make. And then, yes, in terms of the idea, business-wise, there are many reasons why your business may fail. But in terms of change, it's very hard for that to not make a difference in a sense. I think there's another hands up. Have a question, Hania? Okay, I think that was the previous one. All right.
Sorry, that was a legendary hand.
Okay, yeah.
Legacy hand.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, importance of technology. This is the point where I'm trying to emphasize it. Not necessarily. There's nothing new here. Just reflect upon really. 50 years ago, really, if you want to start a company, especially like multi-billion dollars, since that's the topic here, it's impossible. I would say impossible, right? The amount of connections you would need and the amount of investment you need to put in and the amount of amount of information that was required, it's just really much insane, really. But that was because there was no internet, there was no computers, no smartphones. And so what I like to say is, I like to give, let me give like an analogy over here, not an analogy, like a case scenario, which is this. Let's say I want to start a company. So I have an idea. The first thing I need to know is the idea. Do people have the problem? Is the idea worthwhile? And so what happens? You talk to people. If it was before, you would have to walk to them or ride to them or some sort, talk to people, reach people, discuss them. Now it's just a matter of sending a social media, sending like a forum. Here's a social media link to the forum, and then within one day you've got 100, like 500 people. Not that they all will do the same day, but there is a potential. Before it was not possible. And let's say you have that, you realize the idea. Now you have to actually verify that the technical aspect of it works. Well, you need to go to a scholar. You need to go to the library first, see the books there, may have available. You have to travel or find someone expertise. So you have to travel again, find a meeting with that person, get them to understand it. Hard to reach them because they're very few. Right now is just Google, and right now there's so much information written by these expertise freely available on YouTube. People, experts in their own field, are putting their own video, their own comments, their own feedbacks on something. So you have like literally free information that is instant, like at your fingers, like really instant. And then not only that, they're just the smartphone and computers. So now we can automate many of the processes in terms of typing. Before you have to type, right, like with a pen and paper. Well, now you can put a smartphone and you can, analyze, you can change the structure. Let's say you want to find competitors. How do you find about competitors? You have to first hear word of mouth. What are other people saying? And then after that, you would have to talk to them. Now you don't need to talk to them because they have the information on their websites. They have the information up. Everyone is telling you what they're doing in a sense. It's like a company that is up there. So you don't, is really no money in and advertising. Before you had to have a billboard, before you had to have this connections. Now you just pay, put it in, you either post on your social media or you can even, promote it, pay some money. But the point is so much cheaper. So there's a saying like 30 years ago, you would have to probably spend $100,000 to do this process, whereas right now is no more than $5,000, right? Because most of the avenues really just cut off. Right now, everything's digital right now. So starting business still is risky, but now there's much less to lose. It's not like you're putting $10,000 or $1 million in your business. There's not really something to really lose now. So the idea is now everything at your fingertip, really. Nothing. There's no, like, you're learning along. Like everything that happens really is a positive, is a benefit. And all this is about technology, and also the change of technology in the sense, like now you can build an app without, like, before, if you want to build a company, let's say you want to make lemonade, the classical lemonade stand, you have to buy the lemons, right? You have to find it right, at the right time, buy the stand, all these things. Right now everything goes in the digital. Codes are free now. You just literally, if you have a computer, you can just take the code, modify the code, and run it through. I mean, sure, you still need time and all this to understand it and process it, but the point is, there is no head cost to it. There's no additional. The process, that the only thing you really have to do is convert, let's say, from a code one version to another version. Well, that's a learning aspect for you. There's nothing here that is secondary or extra that needs to be done. And that's the reason why, and that's why I say, like, if I were to give this presentation 20 years ago, it would be total different, right? It would be total different aspect. Before, it would be fantasy, right? Talking about the internet would be something like, here's a potential. Everyone's like, what, right? But now, I mean, it's clear now, right? So really, technology has an important part really in all this. So any comments, discussion? Exactly, that's a good point. You think about people stealing your idea, then that like starting a business in itself is stressful. If you're stressed, if you add to that the stress of thinking about your idea, it will be unbearable, really. So you just have to let it go. And again, you have to think in that mindset as if a competitor overtakes you, oh well, you've learned. Next time, fix your mistake. And I just say it's not hard to start a company. You can just close and start again. It does take courage, but besides that, there's nothing more. Any comments or any more discussion points?
Or just a thought. The idea doesn't have to be new, right? The idea could be something that exists and then you just modify it to make it better. So don't think you have to come up with a brilliant idea that you're gonna do something. If you see something, just tweak it a little and then it's gonna change something. That is an idea, right?
Really, I know many people think about the idea aspect, right? You come up with an idea, and especially if you come from an engineering background, you think about what's the idea? Here's a new novel idea. But what I was told is you really want to go even beyond that and think about the problem. Problems will always exist. There's always something you can improve. Nothing's absolutely perfect. So you don't even need to come with this, like the idea itself doesn't need to be insane or even new in a sense. It's just a matter, are you solving a problem? I don't know if you're familiar with Shopify. Shopify is the website that allows you to put your online store on it, right? What idea did they have? Websites were already made, web building technology already made, connecting, digital payments, accepting credit cards already made. What did they add? The only thing they've done was realize a lot of business owners want a presence online. So if I put all these things together, then people use it, and now they're like a billion dollar company, right? So I mean, you don't even have to think of an idea. I know it's good to also have an idea, like something novel. That way, it makes your startup more valid, more strong. But don't have to think of an idea. Like think of a problem. There is an issue we're facing X, Y, Z. What do I need to do? Okay, if it's very available, easy, just do it. If that's not technically feasible, then you have to think of how you can innovate and get it done. But that should be more of the mindset you look at, right? Yeah. Any other comments? All right, let's move on. Okay, so I titled this A Glimpse of Future Careers, but really all boils down to one thing. One thing that's really changing every single field, really. That's artificial intelligence, or AI. And this thing really is going to every field. And now I know not everyone will be a computer scientist, and not everyone could be a computer scientist studying and researching on this. But that's not my point. My point is this is going to affect every other field, right? So, for example, you want to be a doctor. How will AI affect it? Perhaps right now what they're doing, instead of diagnosing patients, you'll put it through the AI and it will diagnose the patients themselves, right? In terms of auto surgery, before you have to, before it's really hands-on, you have to actually do the surgery yourself, right? Using hands, using drill, all the machine. Now, soon, they will have this robots to automate that process. And your job will basically be to supervise, in a sense, the flow, the workflow of that surgery, right? You can think about transportation, bus drivers, truck drivers, or taxi drivers, all this. Eventually, it'll be automatic, and so you're no more going to be sitting in a car and driving it. You're probably going to be distant in some office or at home and have this monitor 3, 5 cars and making sure that they're not, they're doing their job, but they're taking the passengers or lights, or in retail. Think of Amazon. Amazon was hiring people, and now they're firing them because they can get robots to better distribute the warehouse, in a sense, better get packages because it's cheaper, it's faster, it's more efficient, and there's still people, but the people are no more picking stuff up. Now people are sorting what's there. Now people are packaging. The point is, this is really gonna take over many things, and as I said, don't really need to know AI in the sense about its theoretical workings, but you do have to keep this in mind that many of the jobs will be overtaken by these. Uh, yeah. Just this is just like a point I want to mention. Do they don't have comments on this, or should we move forward? By the way, this is one of the highest paying jobs right now. If you finish AI, if you do AI, then your starting salary probably like $200,000, and if you go on as a senior, you're probably going to make like $700,000. One of the highest paying. Okay, inshallah, let's move on. So we reach the last slide, last section. What can you do now? So the first thing I just say is try, meaning do something, because you learn from practice, you learn from experience. If you don't do something, as they say, um, you you so, um, you never you'll never succeed in something you don't start, right? You have to try something and learn from it. And even if you fail, as I fail in the sense of not getting a startup successful, you still learn a lot in terms of the experience, of the management, in terms of customers, in terms of um, the process. So really, there's a lot of things you learn from it, and not only that, you also learn this in the analytical part, which is good for jobs. Really, jobs like people want you to use more of your intellect, right? Because the only thing that really is not going to defeat AI is just human brain. Like that's the one thing. AI will replace everything. Yes, like AI will replace specific tasks, many specific tasks. But there's one thing that it will never be able to overcome, which is our intuition, and partly so because we're the ones. It's our brains we're trying to make them understand. So general intelligence can really never be superseded, right? But at the same point, that's why we have to have these analytical problem solving skills. To do. The way I say it is, if you aim for a positive change, then that means your goal really shouldn't be money. Um, Money is basically the thing to uh, it's like a bonus in a sense, something that it's like an extra, something that you feel happy about, but not the main reason. There should be an idea that you're trying to solve, a problem that you're trying to handle, and that way you can better contribute. So for those in schools, if you're in university, there's so much opportunities. There are incubators in universities. While you're studying, try to brainstorm ideas, and you will only learn your field better. There's nothing less than that. Of course, beyond that, in addition to that, you may get more, you may get money, you may succeed in your business. There are many other possibilities, but the one thing you will never, lose really is that experience. Um, for parents, what I say really is think beyond the standards education, the classical education. You need to prepare them for leadership. And here I want to mention one thing I found bizarre, and you probably too have found bizarre. Um, Math really hasn't changed, right? Math is math since time before 100 years, 1,000 years ago, time in Baghdad, when what's it called, the Islamic Golden Age, where they had the mathematics, they used to do algebra and the likes of those. That's what they teach them now until grade 11, right? Same algebra. Math didn't change. But up to 100 years ago, why did people study math? Why did people study math? It was because they needed calculators, and humans were the calculators. What would happen is there'd be a huge number, a huge computation, whatever they want to do, add, multiply, subtract, whatever mathematical operations they need to do, and they would give it to a bunch of humans, and the humans would say, okay, how do we break this problem down? How do each person add these numbers together, multiply these numbers, find whatever solution they need, combine them together and get a number. This is what NASA used to do. NASA used to have, when they have like satellite, they have to have like telescopes and look at the stars and space and whatever. They would get the data, and there's no computer, so you give it to people and people work on it, and you used to pay pretty decent. So that's what math was before. Math was an idea where you get a math degree to become a computer, literally, right? Now, I mean, you can think that really the computer now has outdone us. no one needs you to do math. No one's going to hire you to do a math equation, like to do some math solution, right? And there's a reason, because computers overtook it. That's it. Computers, had done that now. So what I'm saying, if you teach your kids the same standard method, okay, this is how you add numbers and this is how you multiply numbers. No one needs that anymore. But if you teach them, this is how you add numbers, multiply numbers. This is why you add numbers, and this is how you can use addition to help you in X, Y, Z. Then you're going beyond the standards of the actual method into the application of it and how you benefit from it, how you make use of it. And this hasn't changed much, unfortunately, in the education system, because you're still graded on, can you add numbers better, right? There is a correlation, meaning the more you understand the intuition of it, the better grades you can get. That's why people get more grades typically are better for these positions, right? But just because you get a good grade does not mean you're good for these positions, right? And what happens, people do classical education, you get your school, your degree, whatever, but at the same time experience. That's why whenever you go to job, it's like, what's your degree, what's your experience, both, right? Because they know education doesn't give you the full thing, it only gives you half, which is the analytical part. But then you have to have the reasoning and intuition that comes through experience, right? So that's what I say, really. If you're a parent, then think about this for your kids, and try to make them thoughtful. Encourage creativity and independence, but at the same time provide insight and advice. Meaning, let them try things, but at the same time also advise them. Don't be the too extreme. Don't be like extreme number one. You need to do this and do that and do that, right? In that case, they probably will do what you tell them to do. But was that the best thing for them? Did they really do that thing in the best way? Right? Probably not. At the same time, don't say, you do what you want. You're for yourself and find it, because yes, they probably will find the solution in the end, but time is important. Someone who does many things until 35 and realize when they're 35 years old, okay, now I know what to do. It's not the same as someone when they're like 20, 25 and they're told, okay, now this way to do. So you need to give them advice, but at the same time, independence. I believe these, it's like two more. And then above all, really, patience and gratitude. And I think as Muslims, it's something we can do. Patience, because it is hard. And if you are doing this for a good cause, then you can be patient, right? And then gratitude, because you will fail. And if you do not, or you're not thankful of what you learned and what came out, and also thankful in terms of the decree of Allah, right? Something also unfortunate may happen. If you don't have these two, really, it's startup really is going to cause more trouble for you than benefit from what you learn. Any discussion points anyone like to raise? Any points? Okay, I think their hands up.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
I rather speak in Harari. Is that okay with you?
It's okay with you. I understand.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. صح شي بين الصحة خي. Parentiage, okay. Parentiage حلو خونتا. More of academic study phone تا بلداش now. إن شازان حلو خونتا. Is this one is first session or can you tell me, because I just came at while you were talking, I haven't heard from the start. Megar Yezo, is it the first session?
Yeah. So this is the first event that I held. We started 7:00. So
okay, is it organized just by you or على شخوم مستبحر like that?
I'm the lead initiative. I'm trying to push this through. So Mayo Academy, they call it. So the organization started Mayo Academy, and I'm trying to this specifically, education, how you get them to learn skills also. So it's mainly me. There are a few others I'm with, but they're basically helpers, supporters. Yeah.
Okay, inshallah. Allah تبوشتكو. كله زديش خبوينتياتهم كله بفاليد انت. إني أشوي محلو بمنشن زاشخو it's had issue like race, ethnicity, religion. هي قد شيء زوم impact يا شهل باتين تا ولا لكن أخا خاي زيك باخما as advice أخا خاي زيك باخما اللي تكون رجرا succeed تدخل بو يا إيرم باتين تسببات زيك تيتخي شهل إسحزنا يا النتيجة أنا إنياتش مسلمين تنوى إسحد أين دلاقة بما بو أوايزو ما يي أين شيات بجيه استديت خش حلباتين تا يين شيات خاخاتش بجيه خاخ بح مسالا سيوم مسبي زار خبابات بي اور يوروب زوم كتي الدنيا على حاله بزار ولداتش أحد خانكم تحيركم شياش وآش خونا رقرا إن شاء الله با الله سويل أحد يام سكسيت تخونا خبايتين تا اللي خونتا أكاديميك ستدي متيمل تا الدنيا بيتخيش هذا البيزنس متخيش حل بيزنس انت مور سكسسفول يا شازال وسو والديو أمام بي زيك بالو انتاي لخوزاخ كلهم زيك بالو انترناشنالي شيزو أشخو غيرا آلي إمالحخ ملي كله انكلوسيف نت ينبرا البايتين تا ما إن شاء الله الله تبوش لخو بيزنس بايت زوزوزو مودكم حل حفايتين حل ولكن أخا خاي زود أخو سامك بحفت لاخو أخا خاي دين تخو ريسيرشين تاشو أخو بايتين تا دين تخو بلانو تاجو ما ريسيرش خوزاش خوسا كتشي زوم وقت زو زماني اللي تسأل تكنولوجي بحمسا تلي تساخاشين تخوما إن شاء الله كلكم الله زيكوش أخو إلاخ ما الله يتبلخو خير جزاء انت إلى زخ فزب تصل ذا شيء انت شيء مقرب خابه يشي موش خابه ما شاء الله الله تبوش له على ياشخون ولدات كتهم بليز يكو ذا شيء سبورت متاشمة أحد فوي مليت أزو قرى من تعمله سحزنا يحل بني لما كم حرني لانا لكن إسلامي كوي بيكون ذا الشياشو بجيه ترخب البيتين تا أزوزلتام محلك زوم أحد سبي يزال خانة بي كل زو شير عشي ونارا جرا يكفح البيتين تا ما شاء الله أفيد قام السخ على أشكون بليس أزوبح مسا تدبلو ما يشي إيو كمي حرز الأخبوبي عليه خوكري ماجال أمتي نسال أسر أمتي نسال زغشي يوكيسي منسا ولكن ميغال زود تا أساسو ما well done.
Very true, very true. Okay, inshallah, in terms of recording, I will say, inshallah, if you follow me through the media, my academy, inshallah, I'll mention later on. When it's available, inshallah, I'll post it there. Yeah, so there's another hands raised. Ania?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Wa
I was
alaikum
gonna
salam.
say, I really love your idea, mashallah, because it goes beyond like, the future of digital literacy, and you're going towards, creating these young visionaries, which is beautiful, mashallah. So my question for you was, what is your, like, how do you plan on implementing this with young children or youth or whatever your target audience is? Yeah, that's my question, inshallah.
Yeah, it's there's a simple answer, which I would hope works, but unfortunately doesn't. And then there's a complex answer on how you actually do it, which I've learned through. I started this about a year ago, so I've learned within the year. The simple answer is you host workshops and you get kids on board and you give them problem tasks and like put like in a give groups to students and help them work on it, challenge themselves, and learn skills. That's a simple answer. But of course, there's you need to have engagement in terms of the kids. There needs to be a vision in terms of the parents. There needs to be the understanding for both of them, right? What it entails. So the way I plan to do it is two aspects. Number one is having specific programs. Um, so again, there are two different audience. There's those who are in high school and under, and then there's those in university. For high school and under, you can't really teach them business ideas. Like you can teach them general, but in terms of a concept of starting up, it's really hard for them to, except that they're exceptional, but it's very hard for them to understand that. So what's more important is to teach them skills, technology skills, or business skills in terms of social skills or any form of skill. So example, business skill would be teach them money, teach them about what is investment, what is money, what is purchasing and the likes of those. What is tax? What are all these? Like we learn math, but they don't teach them tax, kind of, which is tax is a practical application of math, right? That's an example of that. Or in terms of science, or sorry, like in terms of like computer science, right? You can learn math, but also computer science, which is programming, how do you actually program and actually do this. Or in terms of engineering, how to actually build electronic parts together or robot parts together. In terms of, I can't really say much social, but there's definitely a way you can apply it. How you like for social, it'll be maybe how you make them present, how you make them host events, and all of these. To have a business, a startup, you have to have all these together. Like there's so much things you have to put together. So before there are before university, all these things is very hard for them to do as a whole, but they definitely can do individually. So if we're to have individual events, individual like workshops, I call them, to teach them particular skills. That's number one. But after university, once you begin university, then it's a matter of like incubation. We'd have to make like an incubator where they come in and then we mentor them basically. But that's going to be harder because uh, just in terms of how much people can you encourage them to begin? At least from my experience, it's hard to get because at the university age, their minds are already already established what they want to do. That's why you have to get them from before. From high school, you need to tell them this visionary so that once they begin university, they're understanding of it and they already acquired the basic skills. It's not going to be a start from scratch. I mean, personally for me, I did a start from scratch, but that was after me realizing so many things, right? Before, like, to be honest, my expectation was like to have a business, you had to be rich, number one, and then number two, you had to do a bunch of all these, business stuff, right? There's no, like, you, I didn't see any. I thought it was like a simple flow to get into a business, right? It's just some tedious task that's done, but it's not that. It's actually simple but complex, right? Simple in the sense that there's one thing you're trying to achieve, solve a problem for a customer, but complex in a sense, how do you actually make customers understand your idea, your problem? So yeah, that's the uh, basically the at least my experience on it.
Mhm. No, that's very good, mashallah. And I like the way that you split it up based on, the children's understanding and their level, right? So, but I see it as like a big project that might be taking like more than a couple of years, or it's gonna be a long-term endeavor, inshallah. But I really hope you success with it. And inshallah, if however you need support, I think everyone's on board to help you and support you, inshallah. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful idea, mashallah. Really good on you, mashallah.
Okay. So we're almost done here. There's a few things I want to mention. A few things I want to mention. Um, I had to bring this up. Uh, in the end of all this, after everything we've mentioned, we should not forget our purpose. And our purpose here, Allah created us for His worship. And from this, what we see, one of the greatest surah, Surah Al-Asr. This is a surah that Imam Shafi'i said, if just this surah was sent, then that would be sufficient for us to understand. It's like wal asr, by the passing of time. In al lafi khusr. Verily, mankind is in ruin or destruction. But there's an exception over here. Those who believe and do righteous deeds, وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر, and those who recommend one another the truth and recommend one another patience. So really our end goal here is, worship Allah, and then how we, expand the truth to the people after we do our righteous deed. And if we have this framework in, then immediately money doesn't become the primary, right? With our idea, because there are many ways, many haram ways which we can acquire money. But when we have this vision, we have this belief, there's a purpose in it, right? Allah has, given, created wealth, that we have to with each other, so that things can move on. Well, I forgot the narration, but money is a thing, to help the people thrive and to help the people, live in sustenance. So people just separate tasks and be able to achieve it. But in the end, there must be some form of belief and some form of, inviting into the truth. And so we should use these as an opportunity, really. When we try to solve an issue, it shouldn't just be solving an issue, because there's so much issues now we can solve that can help people. And so that's what I just say we should never ever forget. So lastly, there's an announcement I want to make after this, but right before that, any last questions or like question regarding this presentation, or you can wait till after the announcement and then it'll be free for all, inshallah. All right, I will move on, inshallah, now. Okay, so as one of the initiatives, I wanted to say to respond to your question, this also, but I didn't, because it will become an end, I thought. So one of the first initiatives I wanted to push forward as our team was the Mayo Challenge. We called it the Mayo Challenge, and we decided to put in about $10,000 worth in prizes to have kids. So this is for we said grade 7 to grade 12, but mainly high school, to solve any problem they want. Inshallah will commence from July to August, and the competition day will be end of August, inshallah. We'll start making it public right after this, inshallah. It's also available on the website, Maya Academy, and you can learn more about our what we hope, and also the application over there. You can always reach us out through WhatsApp. You can use our phone number. If you Google Maya Academy, you can see our phone number there, and you can use that to WhatsApp us, or you can go to the website and you can contact us in WhatsApp. There's a WhatsApp link on the website as well. So spread the word, especially for those who are interested in it. And really, this is my testing. This is our testing platform, really, to see how much of the diversity we can have. So this is this is not a startup, it's not a business, but just an idea. Are our kids capable of looking at a problem and showing why it exists? Are they able to see problems and see what can be done? Basically, this is the first part, the ideation. So basically, that's what I'm hoping to see, what our kids can do, and what they can come up with, inshallah. So this is the first part, but there'll be much more on this, especially if you follow us through. Another program we have is just this will be simple tutoring program. So those who are struggling academically or want to go ahead. So yes, startup is really, or just coming up with the idea is really good thing, but at the same time, you can't slack in education, because if you're poor in education, then it becomes much more harder to even to have a career, in a sense, as a backup. So for those who would like it, we're offering this, inshallah. Again, it will be up on our website very soon, and we'll distribute this around. Math, science, English, grade 3 to grade 12, inshallah. Yeah. So please don't forget to follow us. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Mayo Academy. We'll post all the updates there, and we also have a WhatsApp group of Mayo Academy. For that, if you want to join my academy, just text our number through WhatsApp and say you'd like to join the group, and we will add you to the group. Again, there's a lot more updates that we have. There's a lot more plans going through, but at the same time, if you can think about it also, this is like my mini startup, right? So it's not as simple as getting people to get on board, right? It's not as simple as to explain to them how it's going to work out. And also on my end, many things I've designed it, but it didn't really wasn't working to perfection, and that's the iterative part on it. So if you would like to stay up to date, if let's say a new we have a new plan or have a new proposal or anything, just please follow us. That way we can really together by having this fluid discussion between each other, we can come up with something that's really good, right? So I hope that's that occurs, inshallah. As I said, you can follow us on My Academy, or if you want to join the WhatsApp group to stay up with the latest update, text our WhatsApp. It's available on Google. Just search My Academy, and you should see our phone number, and through there you should be able to text us, inshallah. Okay, with that, I'll open the floor for anyone who has any questions, any comments. Doesn't have to be related to this presentation or anything. It's free for all, inshallah, right now. Yeah. I see a few hands raised. His hand. Okay.
السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Ibrahim, I'm speechless. Alhamdulillah. What can I say? MashaAllah, tabarakallah. May Allah reward you. Jannatul Firdaus. That's all I can say. My question would be, what kind of expectation do you have for parents? What kind of contribution do you expect? Do you have any idea, either financial contribution, ideas, or what kind of help do you want from parents, from or elderly Hararis or anyone? I know we cannot participate in startups and ideas. I mean, we cannot do those, but what kind of contribution do you expect from us?
Yeah. So first of all, thank you, Jazakallah khairan, for the dua and all those. Regarding the contributions, I always mention, the one thing it could be is, getting the kids to understand, So the most important thing really is, first of all, how do we raise kids to understand the importance of this, to prioritize their importance? That's number one. And then number two, how do we put it in a way that's, how do we make them, engaged, and how do we make them, like this kind of thing? So the most important thing for parents, and the reason I mentioned for parents, is if you can put this mindset in your children and allow them to think differently, right? To think with opportunity, I think that would be the most important thing. But I think a bigger challenge for me really is, at the same time, I personally believe that parents, it's very, I believe it's hard for them to understand. I don't know, maybe it's because of my experience, but it's one thing to say that your child can learn such and such, but it's another to say why that thing is important. And I think that's what's really, missing, the true understanding, which is why I decided to make this event, inshallah. The reason was so that I just open the mind, just let people be able to think about it, see the reality with it. And to be honest, it's something I didn't even know about. If you asked me 3 years ago, it's not something I would have known. So just awareness. Really, that's all. Awareness is really the only thing that would help. And of course, really, above all, everything, just to make dua, right? That if you don't have the deen, right? If you don't have the belief in the right deen, then there are many other things that distract you, right? But if you understand your purpose, then it's not really hard to make a choice after that, right? So that's the way I think about it anyway. Allah.
Any plan of funds? Having fund or setting up a fund?
Yeah, so it turns out money only helps after an establishment. So you have to first come with an idea and a process to validate. I need to be through Mayo Academy. We need to be able to see what parents. How do we make parents more aware? How do we make kids more engaged? How do we, how do you create this community, this kind of, this kind of culture in a sense that accounts for all this. And because of that, that's not a matter of money. That's just a matter of trial and error through events like these, getting feedbacks, through discussion, getting feedbacks. Really, that's really the thing. How do we raise awareness? So it's not really a matter of money. It's a matter of advice. So one thing that everyone can help over here really is providing comments and providing directions. You know, whether you're a parent, you get from a parent's perspective, or if you're a young person from your own perspective. You know, if you were in the shoes, or if someone was like you, what would should be done to get them attracted, to get them engaged. And actually, that's one of the things that led me to the challenge. Was asking around. They said you really need some prize because that would brings esteem to it. So that's why I decided to host a challenge, just to see that how much of an awareness can be brought, and how much of motivation can be brought in a sense. So yeah, I think that's just really it. Okay, I think. Yeah.
Can I say something?
So I
Can you
can't very
guys
low.
hear?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum.
Alex, salam wa barakatuh.
Okay, so this is specifically to the parents, inshallah. And what I noticed is that the parents are not aware of the change, the drastic change that's taking place in our time. And that is the discrepancy between the school system and life after that, basically. So if you can enlighten us to, inshallah, that point, because we need to understand, because when I raise my child, I need to know, I need to be myself, I need to be informed, aware of first, right? So that I see that there is a gap between between basically the system, the real life situation, and the parents. And as you mentioned earlier, so we parents, what we see is what we think about is today. Is my child doing well in school? That's all we think of. So if he's a student, if she's a student, we think that we did our part, not knowing that, like, especially here in Canada, I came to know that a lot of people, they finish their university, some even have their master's degree, but yet no job for them. So there is this big discrepancy between the school system preparing them for future, and which is old method, and the change that took place right now, and the challenge that we are in. So if parents understand this, then I think they could prepare their children better. And yeah, inshallah, with some questionnaires, with some survey that was done. So the parents were just very much focused on their academics, the kids' academics. So if they understand and that there need to be a change, there need to be a gap that needs to be filled, and then they should be like valuing themselves and themselves first, and then basically that way they are able to influence their children. I see that So Allah knows best, and this is where I see the gap is basically, inshallah. If you can just tell us more about the discrepancy between the the school system and the real life situation, I would really appreciate.
So actually gave a thought on that. What's changed? I mentioned one of the reasons is also because in the past, really, as I mentioned, example of the computer system, we learned math because you were the computer yourself, whereas now there's no computer took that job, right? But the the difference here is it's not that what you learn in school is not worthwhile or not good. It's that what you learn in school is not enough. What you learn in school is one thing, but you're now expected to do more. One of the reasons for this is now education is universal now, right? If you were maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, the amount of people entering university and things was much less. So the fact that you made it to university, the fact that you made it to university shows that you're really hard work and committed. But now everyone goes there. So how does someone know you're really committed? Well, they're now expecting much more than just going to university. They're expecting you are joining this extracurricular. You are part of this. You're part of that volunteer experience. The example I like to give is this. If any of you are familiar with medical school, if you want to become a doctor, you have to have so much volunteer work and so much experience and degrees and all these things. But when you think about it, why? Medical doctor really, you need to have good hand skills. Why do you have to be very good at speaking or very good at writing and all these things? It is important, but why is that at the pinnacle? It's because you want to filter out those who are really, really good. And the way you filter them out is by getting to do so many different things. So just like that, if you want someone, if someone wants, if a student, if you want your kids to be really good and exceptional, you also need them to do many different things. Education is just one thing, getting good in school. So I don't, it's not discrepancy in a sense that education doing something that's not useful. No, education doing something useful, but that is just half the picture. That's just one part. There's a whole other part on, do you actually have experience? Can you actually learn it? Can you actually problem solve? And so many job applications, if you want to go in it, it's so hard to get a first time job because they're like, what is your, what's your experience? What can you bring forth? Right. So I think, and in terms of, getting good grades, that's obviously something we should strive for. But that's more so if we're able to have what do you call it? An attitude, right? If you're able to be determined and you're able to study hard. But just studying hard doesn't mean that you're an exceptional person. You need to show experience. You need to show work that you've been doing, right? And that's why volunteer experience are a huge thing, because it shows that you're not just a person reading something and getting a grade. Is you're also in the world doing something positive. So yeah, I hope that clarified that. That beyond education, we have to do more. Yeah, Zaki.
Yeah, any thoughts about applying this for even for young professionals, right? I know we probably went to university and got a degree and now working like a 9-to-5 job. But how about changing that perspective, saying, hey, you don't have to quit your job, but this is something to think about. And like, even if you have to do a part-time, eventually, if it's successful, you're able to switch gears, right? Do you guys have a plan to at least for those young professionals, this kind of program or thoughts about that?
Personally, I didn't have any plans on that. That was more of like a long-term visionary thing, considering because it's you need to find people. Fortunately, that is very common, and there's a lot of resources now, right? So the thing is, when you're young, resources are available for everything. But when you're young, you need to have something engaging. You need to have something a directive. Whereas when you're older, you can be more independent. So I didn't. I personally thought that it'll be hard for me to find people who would be motivated and willing to do something, like as you said it, you don't have to quit a job, just do something extracurricular, something part-time, right? Be on a schedule. If there is some demand on that, and there's people wanting that, that's definitely something I would love to be part of. But I just felt that at first stage, what's more needed is to get the kids, because the resource available, as I said again, but it's about being engaging. It's about having something that they can relate to, right? I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Excellent.
It wasn't a question, but I just wanted to make a plug, if that's okay, for our event for the young females, female youth club, inshallah, for next week.
Yeah,
If
inshallah,
that-
go ahead.
Unfortunately, I can't share the screen.
Let me add you. One second. Okay, should be co-host.
Okay, I can share it now. Okay, let me just open it up for a second. Oh, let me just airdrop it to myself again. Where'd it go? Hold on a sec. Sorry, guys. I can't find it. I just sent it to myself, but I can't seem to find the thing. Let me just open it up. Okay, basically, so what we're doing is we're starting up, we started up a young female youth club. And what we're doing is we noticed that there's a lot of Islamic initiative that's going on right now with the Harari communities, with the Harari Darsigar, and with the brothers Harari Dawa group, right? So what we wanted to do was we wanted to create like a social setting for young women or for young girls, 15 and up, inshallah. And what we wanted to do is to create a safe space for young women where they can, like, we can give Islamic reminders, and we can also have like contemporary discussions on things that are relevant to them as they're navigating through life, right? So it's more about how to implement things that are actually going on in their lives right now, as well as we wanted to start up some sort of peer mentorship, right? The thing is, it's not going to be like a mentorship program because we don't have a lot of older people, right? So what we wanted to do was to do more of a peer mentorship where we can create a space where we can collaborate and support one another, inshallah. So that is the aim and the goal. So next week is going to be our first session. So next Saturday is going to be our first session. So we were hoping if there's any parents out there with any young girls 15 and up, you guys can join us next week, inshallah. Here, I finally got the flyer. Here it is, alhamdulillah. So can everybody see that?
Yeah, we can see.
All right. So it's going to be Saturdays, and it's going to be from 7 to 9, inshallah. And if you would like to join, please text this number here, and inshallah, we'll add you to our mailing list, and we'll send you the links to our Zoom sessions. And it's going to be twice a month, inshallah. So we look forward to everybody's participation. And the thing is that the group is more of a collaborative group, so that we can generate ideas and think and talk about topics and things that are really relevant to the youth in this time, inshallah. So that's what we're hoping for. So it's more interactive and less more of us, talking to you guys, but hopefully we're going to be collaborating with you and trying to come up with solutions and supporting one another to better ourselves in the deen and the dunya, inshallah. So that's about it. So if you get a chance, if you have a daughter, a cousin, a niece, right, who is 15 and over, inshallah, it would be great to have them join us, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
Very good, mashallah. It's very important to, I always say, to bring the like minds together and come up with something, brainstorm, support. It's very much needed, especially now in this day when there's social media and we associate with many others who unfortunately don't help us in either in deen or even in dunya.
Yeah.
So,
So inshallah, if you can just take a screenshot, I'll leave it. I don't know how long you need me to leave it for, but maybe I'll put it I'll put the number in the chat section as well. So if you guys want to join, just let us know, or you can just send your email to me. Fartuna was here a second ago. I'm not sure if she's still here, but if she's here as well, you can send a message to Fartuna as well. All right, Jazakallah khair. Thank you for letting me share our initiative.
no worries, inshallah. Is there any other question, any other comment, anything else that anyone wants to make? There's a question in the chat for.
Okay, so I think that's for me, that question. So the aim for it is for it to just be for the young girls, so that it's a safe space for them in case they wanted to discuss topics and ideas that maybe they don't want, maybe their parents to know about or anything like that. Allahu alam. But we just wanted to create that safe space for the young women, inshallah. So that's another reason why we're not recording the sessions as well, so that they feel comfortable and safe in that space. And it's, you don't really get those spaces very often. It's very rare, especially like in an Islamic environment. So there's a lot of safe spaces, but they're not really Islamic safe spaces. So inshallah, we're trying to create that kind of space for our Harari young women, inshallah.
Okay. I think there's no more questions, and there's so inshallah, jazakallah khairan everyone for attending. Very very good audience. I can see a lot of discussions, which was the point. I was hoping, alhamdulillah, there was discussions. Again, please follow us on our Maya Academy at our social media, and please join our WhatsApp group using our number to send us a text message. You can just Google Maya Academy and find our number and text message saying you'd like to join. And your feedback is very much appreciated. So any comments or concerns or anything, please, or even any ideas you come across, just share it, and that would be wonderful, inshallah. All right, inshallah. For those who want to stick around, you can stick around. But for those who want to leave, inshallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.